It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
All right, this next question is from Whole-Mart 524.
Did you say Whole-Mart?
Whole-Mart.
Like a hole, like a pothole?
Like kinda, but without the E.
Or
like,
you shop, this is where you go to buy your holes.
Maybe that's...
Whole-Mart. Is that what you said? Okay, keep going.
That got a chuckle from Avery. I'll take that. All right, this is what Whole-Mart said. Should the three buckets of investing all have the same mutual funds in the portfolio? So we see this all the time, right? We talk about these three buckets. You have your tax-deferred bucket, you have your tax-free bucket, and you have your after-tax bucket. And we say that when you get to financial independence, you want to have all three of those funded really, really well so that you can pick and choose what type of taxes you pay and where your money comes from. And it provides you a lot of flexibility. Well, here's the question that Whole-Mart is asking. Okay, do I just hold the exact same thing in all three? So if I'm a 70-30 portfolio, inside of my tax deferred, do I do 70-30? And inside of my tax free, do I do 70-30? And inside of my after tax, do I do 70-30? So that's the first question. And then my second question, Brian, that Whole-Mart didn't ask, but I just want you to mention it, is do we all need to be thinking about that? Does everybody who's investing, everyone who's like putting money to work, they need to be thinking about what types of holdings they have in which types of accounts?
So Whole-Mart trying to set a trap. He's like Wile E. Coyote over there. He's over there scraping over a little pine straw on top of it to see if I fall into it. Because look, we just did a show, and I would encourage you, if you haven't checked it out, on how to essentially get wealthy without even trying. Mm-hmm. It was a show on index target retirement funds. Yep. And we got a little bit of blowback from people who were like, man, I can't believe you guys are recommending a mutual fund or a target retirement fund and a taxable account. Shame.
How dare you?
Shame. But I want you to know, and Whole-Mart, maybe you're not, but I'll still go beep beep, because we're going to get through this, and the fact that I do think if you are somebody, because when I saw the criticism we were getting, because we said just buy an index target retirement fund in everything. Mm-hmm. I mean that's kind of the advice we mentioned or talked about on the show, and because there is some tremendous benefit to understanding the three bucket strategy and knowing where to put assets. But there's a time and a place.
That's right.
You have to reach the critical mass to where it makes sense to focus your calories, your horsepower on that asset allocation versus how much am I saving right now? Because I'm starting at zero and I know I want to be at this $1 million, but I've got to get over the hump of 100,000. I got to get over a hump of 200,000 to a 500,000. So before we get there, what's the most effective way to get there? And so that's why we were building a bridge of index target retirement funds that the biggest providers of these are like the Vanguards of the world, the Charles Schwab, the Fidelity Investments. Yep. They all offer index funds that as you get older, they're very aggressive while you're young, and then they get more conservative every year, automatic for the people, so you don't have to worry about it. This is why we recommended it. And the reality is when you're young, what are the biggest accounts for your investments? It's going to be your Roth IRA, because we prioritize that in the financial order of operations. It's going to be your employer's plan, because you're getting that free money. Right. You're doing the savings probably in a Roth 401k or something like that. So you're going to see a lot of your assets are in retirement accounts, which mean they have deferred or tax-free implications. Mm-hmm. So whatever you put in there doesn't matter initially. So that's perfect for the index target retirement funds. On those taxable accounts, now that's where you are going to need your liquidity, but a lot of people will say, but that's also where you could get the taxable distributions from things. But that's going to be your smallest account. It's going to probably be the last thing that gets filled before you get to hyperaccumulation, which is step 7 of the financial order of operations. So that's one of those things where I think in the beginning, yes, I even want you buying an index target retirement fund. In that fund, until you reach a critical mass point. And here's the thing. We always say it's around 500,000 of investable assets. Now that's taking into account your retirement account, your Roth accounts, and your taxable account. Right. And here's the reality is a lot of you are going to get to 500,000. You're going to find out, you're like, wow, I've got $300,000 in my employer plan. I have $120,000 in my Roth IRA. and I have 80 in my taxable account because, like I said, it unfortunately is one of the last accounts because you're trying to maximize all the benefits that Uncle Sam's giving you on saving, that yes, there might be money in a not the most tax efficient way in a taxable account, but that's okay because that's when you will pivot into the 3 buckets. And now let me answer. Actually, Bo, because I feel like I've talked a lot. Tell them kind of a brief 30,000 foot overview of once you graduate to that critical mass, what are some of the ways you ought to think about your 3 bucket strategy?
Yeah, so once it makes sense for you to begin focusing on this, you've crossed over that critical mass. Inside of your tax deferred accounts, you want to hold those types of investments that create ordinary income because those accounts are tax deferred. So if you have bonds or you have fixed income or you have investments that are paying out ordinary income, you want to hold that inside of your pre-tax 401ks, your traditional IRAs, your IRA rollovers. Inside of your Roths, you want to hold your high-flying growth assets because those dollars grow tax-free. So you want to have those investments that you think have the highest probability of outsized returns over the long term because you want to legally stick it to Uncle Sam as hard as you can and grow those tax-free dollars. And then anything that spits off qualified capital gains, qualified distributions, or liquidity, stable value type investments, you want to hold those inside of your after-tax account. And if you can do that, what you're going to find is as your portfolio grows from 500 to 750 to $1 million to 1.5 to 2 to 3, you're going to have a very efficient portfolio. And when you go to start distributing those assets, if you've built your 3 buckets that way, you're even going to be able to distribute the assets efficiently while maintaining your overall asset allocation.
And we would be crazy if we didn't mention this is the brilliance of the abundance cycle.
That's it.
We can give you tons of free advice on all of this stuff, just completely give it away because I had this phone call yesterday with a client where they're like, man, I just want my life simple. And I'm like, isn't that amazing? The more success you have, you can want and desire for life to be simple financially, but complexity, it doesn't matter how good of a hider you are in this great game of simplicity, hide and seek, you will be found by success. And that's where you learn from us, you grow, you keep applying these concepts and you reach a level of success that there we are. We're going to help you out. And that's why when you get to bucket strategies or you're trying to optimize and maximize the opportunity every dollar in your army of dollar bills has, we hope you will remember Abound Wealth, the abundance cycle, and who planted all those seeds. So, like I said, we're the Johnny Appleseeds of millionaires, and we want you to hopefully remember that.
The Johnny Appleseed, did you just make that up?
Yeah, I just came up with that.
The Johnny Apple, let's put that on a t-shirt, team.
This is what happens when we get 3 cups of coffee.
First merch, the Johnny Appleseeds of millionaires.